Hi, everybody. My name is Gary Gomes. As you can tell, I got my hair cut, and that's not really the news of this broadcast, but I do it every once in a while, just to make sure it can grow back. And I'm here to talk with you about Vedic astrology, astrology in general, and also what's happening in the world right now. I was off for about 2 weeks due to a personal issue that's been uh, largely resolved. And I'm in a different format right now, and I'll be in this different setting for a few months. So, and hopefully, by the time this is all worked out, I'll have a different backdrop and a different surrounding view. But for the time being, this is home, and this is where I'll be. And I hope you enjoy the videos. I was asked last week. I'm going into my William Shatner mode where I'm clipping off words and unexpected or sentences at unexpected points. But I was asked to review a particular astrological phenomenon. I won't do that this week. I do, however, want to talk about the Jupiter transit to Aquarius, which is welcome news for a lot of people. I'm also going to talk about Venus and Mercury being in the sign Pisces, which is great for Venus and somewhat good for Mercury. It's Mercury's debilitated condition, so there's a temptation or a tendency to do a little bit too much at once when this particular configuration comes up. And I'll also talk to you, I hope I'm not too large on your screen. I'll also talk with you about what's happening astrologically, just in general over the next few weeks in April. We do have, and again, if somebody wants to contact me for readings or for lessons, I can be reached at 508-525-0001. You can also reach me online at neivas.com or at crystalexpectations.com or through Facebook or through Instagram. So any of those locations you can get me. Okay, so and I have about 4 different unrelated links on Facebook. So if you want to reach me there, I'll be more than happy to talk with you. And even if you want to share what's going on with you about what's happening in the world, that's fine too. But I'm happy to talk with you and help guide you astrologically. All right, so without further ado, let's look at the screen and see what's happening astrologically right now, right as we speak. So this is a this is a new computer. Hopefully the resolution is better. And you can see the sign. This is, for those of you who know already, this is what's called a South Indian chart. I will talk about some Western astrology configurations just briefly before I go on. I spoke about Chinese astrology last week, and this is so I'll put this into a Western style chart format for a second, and I'll pull up the Western planets, and we'll talk about just for a few minutes about what's happening Western astrology wise, because I actually do know that. Let's see now. So we're going to add Uranus and Neptune and Pluto. We're not going to add any of the Upagrahas. We're only going to use the primary planets. I'm not going to talk about the asteroids or anything like that. We do have some of these interesting things called Arabic parts, and I'll put the part of fortune down and the part of love down. Oops, love and fortune. All right, so we'll try these on for a bit, just to go over here. And we'll see if we can assign these all to one page. Let me see, did I do that right? I might not have. Okay, and apply to page. Okay, so essentially for those who are Western, who have Western astrology predilections, this is my birth chart, so we're going to get away from that. For just a second. And I'm going to go to swap the chart. And this is a Los Angeles chart. And we're going to change the location to where I am, which is New Bedford, Massachusetts. Sorry for the delay. We have right now, we have it looks like Pisces is reactive in, let me make sure that I have to fix the Inamsha. Sorry about that, folks. Inamsha is, there's no Inamsha or no adjustment for Western astrology. All right, so it looks like right now that Aries is reactive. So a lot of people who have Aries sun signs in Western astrology, you're going to feel very animated, very aggressive, very forceful. There's no such thing as combustion in Western astrology. We do have a cluster though in Aries, so this is going to be a very busy time for a lot of people. The moon is in Capricorn. It's going to be a very practical time. A lot of people are going to be going out buying things, but very frugally. And the Jupiter and Saturn conjunction is in Aquarius, so that's going to be a lot of focus on humanitarian activities and trying to accommodate a lot of different opinions and a lot of different viewpoints. But it's more the way that Aquarius is used in Western astrology, from what I've seen, is it's used more as an indicator that an indicator of humanitarian efforts. So there'll be a lot more focus on trying to institute humanitarian efforts. And Pluto with Capricorn does it, and Pluto in the moon sign. Pluto's in the same sign with Capricorn right now, and so it's been a disruptive couple of days. Pluto is very important in Western astrology. I don't think it's as important in Eastern astrology. I'm not saying it has no influence at all, but I've seen the nodes do pretty much the same thing that Pluto and Ketu do, or that Rahu and Ketu do. And this is still going to give some problems to government. So governments are still going to feel very unstable. They're going to feel like they need to spy more. They're going to feel like they need to monitor and control things more. That's not going to go away for quite a few years, unfortunately. K2's in Sagittarius, and so for Western Sagittarians, it'll be kind of a confusing time, kind of a time when they feel like their life is a little bit out of control. And they'll have a lot of arguments or disagreements in married life, a lot of problems with relationship partners. The part of fortune is in Scorpio, so people who are Scorpionic by nature, this is actually a lucky month for them. So they have sun, moon, or rising sign of Scorpio in Western astrology. This is a lucky month for them. The part of love is in Leo, and essentially this particular combination tends to make a person very, very love struck very easily. They want to command love. They want to make love happen. There's not Saturn casts an influencing degree on it, on the part of love, but Jupiter will open that window for them as well during this time. So that's good, but love will develop slowly because of the Saturnian influence. And Leos in particular are relatively lucky in love this month. This is Western Leos. Mars and Rahu are in Gemini. So again, there'll be a lot of arguments, a lot of discussions. Media is still, to be honest with you, not to be trusted. They're essentially, and it's not that I have anything against media. Not really. I actually originally started out to become a journalist. That was my undergraduate major. But I think one of the things you're looking at with media right now is media is mostly about ratings. And it's like a prepackaged truth, but it's a prepackaged truth which will get you to tune in. And just looking at Uranus and Taurus, a lot of people who have Taurus suns will find their lives in kind of like really kind of chaotic shape. A lot of changes, a lot of exciting changes, a lot of interruptions, and but new and exciting opportunities coming up too. So the life pattern is going to change rather quickly. And that'll keep on going for at least another 7 or 8 years. The other thing is, so at least from the real signs, Aries will have a relatively active month. Pisces will have a relatively mystical month. They'll be more concerned with mystical things and spiritual things. Aquarius will be more concerned with making money. Capricorn will be more concerned with public image. Sagittarius will be kind of accident prone or kind of misfortune prone, but also very, very detached about it. Scorpios will be lucky in money. Librans will be not much happening in Libra, but you do have Venus, Mercury, and Sun in the 7th house. So that does mean there are romantic potentials happening for that sign. Virgos are, again, more inclined towards unrealistic expectations about love. Leos are going to get opportunities for romance with both wiser and older partners. Cancers are going to have more concerns with disruptions in their relationships, maybe unexpected disruptions in their relationships. Geminis will be fighting very aggressive, and Taurians will have a lot of financial growth, but also unexpected financial opportunities. Also, they'll see their life change very quickly. They'll see it move around very, very quickly. Now, let's look at the Vedic chart. Go back to the Vedic chart. So let me know if you want me to go on with that kind of exploration. That's fine with me. If not, just let me know and I'll stick to Vedic. And I am primarily a Vedic astrologer. So we'll leave all the planets in here, we'll just leave them as they are. And we'll get the Ionamsha fixed. And we'll talk about the general tendencies, global options, Lahiri Ionamsha. And over here, And I'm just going to check and make sure that we're still on screen. Let's see. Make sure we're still recording. That's always a good idea. Right. So we're still recording. No screen sharing. Right. So this is the sidereal zodiac. We're back to our old friend, the sidereal, or the asterism-based zodiac. And the main difference between Western astrology and Eastern astrology is that ianoptia, or adjustment that the Indians introduced. And basically it corrects for, just to go back over to material you already know, it corrects back to what's called the Chitrapaksha ianoptia, or Lahiri, and it's based around the sign, around the sun Spica, which is over here in Virgo. And essentially, that's considered to be an auspicious point in space. That particular sign is considered to be very, very strong. I've had personal experience with it because I have a planet that's close to that particular star, and during the major planetary period of that star, it gave me rather surprisingly good luck, given the way my horoscope functions. And overall, so essentially from this particular chart, you'll see that this is a Cancer rising at the current time we're speaking. Love, the part of fortune of love is in the second house. It's still in Leo, and the part of luck or financial is in Libra at 26 degrees 53 minutes of Libra. K2 is in Scorpio, where it's exalted according to some belief systems in Indian astrology, but K2 always depends on where Mars is in the chart. And I'll explain that because this is a rather difficult combination in the chart. The moon is in Sagittarius, where it has been for about the past day, and that's been a relatively decent a couple of days after the end of last week, which was very volatile, as some of you may know. And Saturn and Jupiter and Pluto are still in the same sign, although you can see Pluto is pretty far away from Saturn and Jupiter. So Pluto, even if Pluto has an effect in Vedic astrology, is still very early in the sign. And by the rules of Vedic astrology, Pluto should be extremely weak. Okay, so this shouldn't be a dominant presence in a chart right now. When Saturn and Jupiter were closer to Pluto, yes, it would have been, but neither Saturn or Jupiter are within what Western astrologers would call an orb of influence. The moon is close to it, so the moon will pass over Pluto probably before the end of the day, before the beginning of tomorrow. So that'll cause some disruption for people, but and that'll cause some mental disruption and perhaps some guilt and some anxiety. But Saturn and Jupiter aren't really being affected by Pluto at all. The other combination we have here is Neptune. We'll talk about Neptune just for a second. Neptune's in Aquarius. It's about to, in a few months, it'll move into Pisces, not right away. And we have that Sun, Mercury, Venus conjunction in Pisces. Uranus is in Aries, and that'll tend to make people very action-oriented, very unpredictably action-oriented over the next few years. If I were looking at this from a Western astrology standpoint, I would blame that particular combination for a lot of the disruptions that's happened in American society over the past 6 or 7 years. Since I'm not, Um, I blame a combination of Rahu and Saturn and Jupiter for that. So Rahu, as you can see right now, is Mars is past Rahu. Thank God for that. And I use what's called a true node when I'm looking at Rahu and Ketu. And what the heck is that? Well, a true node is essentially, it makes allowances for the nodes to go backwards in the sky. Mean node is what most Indian astrologers use. A true node is a 20th century invention, I think by Michael Erlewine, although I'm not sure. And Michael Erlewine is a fairly well-known Western astrologer. He's been involved in a lot of different fields like music as well. But basically, and also some of the first astrological computer programs available. But basically, when the node is moving forward, which is unusual notion for it, it's considered to be extremely good. It'll produce positive changes, although they may seem disruptive for a while. And they only stay forward moving for about a day or so. So you'll see them when big events happen, like 9/11 was a it was a direct node. I'm not saying anything like 9/11 is going to happen. Okay. By the way, the date of this is April 4th, 2021. But this Rahu Mars, there's a certain kind of yoga. It's a Mars Rahu yoga, which is really considered very destructive. And I didn't think it was all that destructive because statistically, it doesn't really measure up all that much. But having experienced it myself like about 2 weeks ago, I can say, yes, it is disruptive. The major thing of it is again, a lot of these disruptive influences aren't going to affect you personally unless they actually touch particular sensitive parts in your chart. And in this particular case, K2's in Scorpio, where it's well placed. Mars is in Taurus, where it's not considered not to be that well placed, but it's a very sexual placement. It stirs up passions. And Rahu frustrates that. Now, this can cause things like fires, disasters, catastrophes. So we had that blockage of the ship and the Suez Canal. That's almost a classic K2 screw because it's happened in water signs. And also you'll have fires and all sorts of bad events happening during this particular period. And again, like I said, not really critical for you. It'll just probably make you a little bit shorter to temper than normal because you'll be frustrated and unhappy during these transits. So I think one of the things to keep in mind is when we see transits like this, especially in a Vedic chart, nothing really bad is going to happen unless it's passing a critical part in your chart, or unless it's passing over a critical point in your chart. I kept the love and good fortune parts in the chart there just to show you what they were doing. And the love portion of the chart is going over Leo. And the good fortune part of the chart is going over Libra. So those signs should be particularly benefited in matters connected to romance. So there'll be very strong feelings. It doesn't necessarily mean there'll be action connected with love. And one of the reasons I'm saying this is because we have a Sun Venus combustion, and that'll stay active until around May. And that'll prevent romantic flowerings or romantic interest from manifesting. That and COVID, obviously, will tend to cause problems. And Mars will stay in the sign until around April, mid-April, at which point it will go into Gemini, and it'll make Geminis much more energetic. It'll make all the air signs much more energetic than they have been. And it will also blast away and cause some new aspects of luck to generate and some unexpected communication. So communications will get a little bit harsher, a little bit less confused and frustrating. And you'll also see, and also one of the things that is not commonly understood about Mars is a planet connected with logic. So Mercury's connected with discrimination. Mars is connected with logic. So whenever you have Mars afflicted in a chart, there'll be some kind of carelessness with fire, but also some kind of problems with communication. So you'll have a lot of electrical disturbances, and that was one of the reasons we had all the wire shutoffs in Texas. That was one of the reasons why they lost all that power. And also it interferes with communications, because you need, this is essentially, Mars is essentially responsible for electricity. Mars and Rahu are both responsible for electricity in a Vedic chart. If they're put together along with Ketu, which causes accidents, then you'll see problems connected with those things. So let's go to the chart. So in summary, Rahu is well placed, Ketu is well placed, Mars is a fly in the ointment here. Okay, Mars is not well placed in this sign. So it's giving a lot of frustration to pent-up desire. And the expression of love is going to get very strong, but it'll get stronger as the month goes on. And actually, it'll probably get strongest when it hits Libra, which is more of a relationship indicator planet. So essentially, really, you're going to have to wait for about 2 months for that to manifest. And also, finances should be good over the next few months for Libras and Scorpios, and also for Aries and Tauruses. So let's go and look at the world map. But these are general tendencies. Governments are going to be confused, by the way. I want to say that one last time. Governments are going to be a little bit confused over the next month. And I will cover more technical aspects of the chart. If I look at Gemini aspects, Taurus should be having, sidereal Taurus should be having some good financial luck because of an aspect from Libra. Libra should be having some good romantic luck because of an aspect from Leo. So should Aquarius. So should Capricorn. So should Aries. Okay. And fortunate placements. Saturn, however, is obstructing Taurus. So Saturn and Taurus are involved with each other. And Saturn and Leo are delaying love. So it's similar to what we saw in the Western horoscope, only Saturn's indirectly aspecting the part of love. And also Saturn's aspecting Scorpio, so that'll cause some problems with some tragedies in terms of accidents and in terms of water problems, which we've seen over the past few weeks. So let's go to the world chart. Astro mapping. All right, so this is our astro map. So we have, see how much time we have left. All right, so we have, all right, so as you can see right here, Mercury, oh, how appropriate. Mercury is passing directly through Washington, D.C. So there's been a little bit of confusion lately in Congress. There's been a little bit of consternation over what direction to take. And the moon is passing through right now as well. So this past weekend is probably a little bit calm, but over the next month or so, you'll see a lack of direction coming out of Washington. Just essentially, I won't say a stalemate because that's too easy. It's really there'll be a bunch of confused messages coming out. The good part of it is because of this confusion, and it normally takes a while for legislation to get straightened out anyway. Because of this confusion, there won't be any radical action taken out of Washington D.C. over the next month or so. And when I say radical, I don't mean radical in a far left or far right way. It's just there won't be anything really new happening there. And there will be, I would say, over-promising happening from the current administration because of the Sun-Venus conjunction, because it'll want to clear things up for a lot of people, and it's essentially the pathway will be difficult to see. It'll be easier to see after around April 15th. Saturn is on the West Coast, so Saturn is, again, this is not good for governments on the West Coast of the United States. It's really kind of a difficult time for them. And we know there's a recall measure in California. I'm not sure when it's going to take place, but that's not good. And Washington and Oregon are both kind of messed up right now, and they will be for a little while, to be honest. Jupiter's passing through roughly Arizona, okay, right now, and Nevada, and all the way up through Montana and into Canada. And Jupiter it's essentially starting to get its bearings again. So those states are starting to get their bearings again, but they're still a few days away from that April 6th Jupiter transits into Aquarius. And I'll talk about the Jupiter transit into Aquarius in just one second. It should be extremely good. Let me just break the suspense. The Jupiter transit into Aquarius, well, it should be extremely good for people with strong Libras, Geminis, Aquariuses, and Leos, and also Capricorns. Okay, so for the last two signs, it'll present opportunities and also money opportunities. For the other signs, it'll produce financial luck. It should be good for Aries too, from a financial perspective and from a realization of their dreams and goals and desires. For the other signs, it'll be a little bit less beneficial, but for Taurus, it will produce career gains for Gemini, increased luck; for Cancer, increased unexpected financial assets; for Leo, great opportunities for partnerships; for Virgo, increased health risks, unfortunately, although they'll be ameliorated pretty quickly; for Libra, exceptionally good luck as a result of efforts from the past; for Scorpio, better home life; for Sagittarius, better fulfillment of ambitions, easier fulfillment of ambitions; for Capricorn, increased financial assets; for Aquarius, increased luck and increased optimism; and for Pisces, increased financial drains, although they'll be for spiritual purposes. The other thing is, let's look back at these lines. So we have a Mars and a Jupiter line passing right through. It looks like there's Idaho, I know, meeting like right at the border of Utah. So that area should be kind of one that we should watch for accidents or for injuries. And not because Jupiter's a bad planet, but because whenever Jupiter and Mars get together, there's a little bit of carelessness involved. The other thing is Mars is passing through West Texas and Mexico, so that can create some earthquake or volcanic potentials. And there's a Rahu line in West Mexico too, and also going through Arizona. So you should see some disruption in government or some interference in government over the next month or so. Mercury is going through Western South America, Colombia, Ecuador, Venezuela, and Sun and Venus are going through Eastern United States and down through Central South America. So you should actually see the government starting to do better in that part of the world. Saturn is passing over here. And through Australia. So I'm not expecting anything really all that horrible to happen in Australia, although we should see an increase in deaths because of COVID. And let's see over here. Rahu is passing over Ireland and England. So again, and Mars is passing over here. So increased violence, and also in France, and increased infection. This will only be for a couple of months. I think when the vaccines start to roll out, even the speedier variants will tend to slow down quite a bit. And Rahu is passing right over Portugal and Spain and Western Africa. So that part of the world is going to see additional outbreaks, but again, like I said, relatively quickly contained. Mercury is passing right through Central Europe over Italy, Germany, France, and Germany, and you'll start to see increased financial distress and financial worries in that part of the world. And from the chart, Sun and Venus are passing over Turkey and Egypt and Sudan. So those areas should be relatively quiet, and also through most of Eastern Europe. Although you will see governments exerting more authority, in that part of the world. There's a Saturn line going right over Iran and Russia, and there's a Jupiter line. So that's could indicate more deaths for that part of the world, unfortunately. And there's a Jupiter line passing over India and up into the former stands, what they call the stand governments, and into Russia. So India looks okay for this month. Rahu and Mars are passing over, again, Burma, what used to be Burma, Myanmar, a little bit of Thailand, and into China. So you should start to see some disruptions, some physical disruptions. And the moon is passing over Japan and over the Philippines and over parts of Indonesia. So that part of the world should be a little bit, I'm just trying to think of the right word today, changeable. So you'll start to see governments change, or start to see governments flex and leave. So the worst parts, if I were to isolate the worst parts of the world, I look at Western United States, particularly to the west of Nevada and Arizona. Texas may be involved. Mexico looks like it's got some potential bad spots, and so does Argentina. Governmental disruptions in Western South America, and also in the United States. And they're looking at essentially some disease panic in Rahu and Mars over Spain, France, Italy, Portugal, and Ireland, and maybe even some physical violence in those parts of the world. And over here, China, Myanmar, and West and Eastern Russia will be prone to difficulties. There could be some disruptive changes in Indonesia and also in Japan, but that looks unlikely to me. So let's go back to the chart, and we'll see how much more time we have. So in general, the main things. Let me see if I can pull this down. I'm going to close it. Okay, so I'm going to stop the share. See what time we're at. All right. So in general, for most signs, it doesn't look like a benign month, but it looks less disruptive or horrible than March has been. And I think if you're looking at, excuse me, I need to stop the share. Let's see 1 second. So in general, if we have any concerns, at least sidereally, I think the signs that still have some problems. Well, let me go through each sign one by one. Aries looks basically in good shape. There are some expenses for the sign over the next month or so. But overall, it doesn't look like it's in bad shape, and it'll be expenses based upon love or romance or partnerships. So that'll be actually okay. Taurus is going to have another couple of tough weeks through around mid-April. Then you'll start to see it start to gain financially and also start to improve its overall financial position, and it'll be good for acquisition of property, good for financial growth, but romantic life is not really particularly great for Taurus over the next year or so. And I hate to tell you that, but that's just the general truth. There'll be sparks or opportunities for that, but it'll be a little bit difficult to get anything going romantically, short of a love affair, probably next month. For Gemini will feel more energized, more lucky, more in pitch with his higher aspirations, for more financially lucky over the next couple of weeks. And Cancer, although it will still be restricted, it will have more certainty and more security and more financial stability than it has had in a while. It will find, relationship-wise, although it'll still be talking about love and great love, it'll be more practical over the next year or so. And Leo looks fortunate in love. It looks fortunate in financial gains, and it looks like it'll generally have a very good month. Career-wise, it'll probably still feel a little bit frustrated by his career, but basically it'll be a good month for that sign. Virgo has to watch out for health issues. These aren't serious health issues. They're things that are resolved relatively rapidly. They're minor health issues, mostly connected with the stomach and intestinal regions, and also with the feet and ankles, and other parts of their life, though, will be fine. They won't have a lot of luck with bosses. There'll be some disputes with bosses or some dissatisfaction with work life, but that'll be present for about another year. For Libra looks like a very fortunate month for financially, or for a couple of weeks for financially, and it will also be somewhat fortunate for romantic involvements, because especially among friends. And in terms of home life, overall, not a bad home life. There'll still be a lot of fighting in the Libra home, to be honest with you, just because of K2 being in the second house, but it won't be quite so difficult after around April 13th, April 14th. For Scorpio has dissatisfaction with relationships, good money potential over the next couple of weeks, good ability to realize its goals, but you'll have to do so over mounting opposition from relationship partners, and that'll be in place for about a year, but it won't be as bad as it has been, especially after mid-April. For Sagittarius, a month of change for this particular sign, and you'll start to see an increase in financial growth, an increase in financial prosperity, and also more protection for the sign than is normal. In terms of home life, it'll be good for it in terms of financial growth, and you'll start to see increased financial benefits. For Capricorn's in a work hard mode for the next year and a half. Doesn't really make relationships a priority, although if it's a working relationship, that may be viable. The other thing I can see from the chart is that you'll find it much easier to accumulate money, and Capricorn will really be all about money over the next few months. For Aquarius, good luck, more optimism, more schooling opportunities, more opportunities for financial growth. Overall, career luck will be good, although they'll tend to be under-recognized or ignored at work. But again, that doesn't necessarily bother that sign all that much. And Pisces will have a lot of confusion over life direction, confusion over what it wants, to be more inclined towards trying to escape or trying to have a good time over the next month at least. And then it'll start to get luckier and get more financially involved and more career involved. So that's it for the 12 signs. If you have any questions, please contact me. I will include a section on a more deeper aspect of Vedic astrology, but in the next broadcast, not this one, because I'm just getting my toes in the water again. Okay, all right. Thank you very much. Have a great day, and namaste.